So you might not have realized it, but Apple just dropped a brand new 27-inch 5K iMac for under $2,000, and this is my review. For starters, this lowers the cost of entry into the 5K iMac world by $500. Previously, the base model started at $2499, that one's now $2299, and paves the way for the newer, cheaper baseline model. Apple still does, though, offer a non-Retina 27-inch iMac for $1799, but you'd be crazy not to jump up to the $1999 model. $200 more gets you not only a 5K display, but a faster CPU and graphics card. So with that, you're getting a quad-core 3.3 GHz Core i5 processor, 8 gigs of RAM, a 1TB 7200 RPM hard drive, and for graphics, a 2 GB AMD R9 M290. Now, I'm not going to take you through the entire unboxing because chances are if you've seen one unboxing, you've seen them all. So how exactly does this new iMac perform? And in Geekbench 3 on the single core side, it pumped out a score of 3,372 and 10,763 for multi-core. Now, if you're curious about the performance on the baseline and the next step up, in terms of processors, they're going to be really close. Where I think most of you will see the biggest difference though is actually in storage. The entry-level 5K iMac has a 7200 RPM hard drive, which for me is a little hard to adjust to since anything I'm used to using is flash-based. It's not terribly slow by any means, but in terms of performance, it's dishing out speeds of around 200 megabytes per second on both read and write. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a Fusion model on hand, but for reference, my late 2014 5K iMac, which features pure flash storage, dished out write speeds over 670 megabytes per second and read speeds over 720 megabytes per second. So how exactly does that performance benefit you? And to give you a really simple visual, here's a file just under 2 gigabytes, and by duplicating it, you can really get an idea how much faster the process is on flash storage. A Fusion drive is a combination of a smaller flash drive where apps and frequently used storage live on that, and then a larger mechanical drive for mass storage, so you can expect performance to be somewhere in between these two. So next, let's talk about what may be the most attractive thing about this iMac, and that is the display. 5120 by 2880, otherwise known as 5K, and definitely part of Team Crispy. That's 2 times the resolution vertically and 2 times the resolution horizontally of a non-Retina 27-inch iMac, and that results in 4 times the total amount of pixels. Now, one of the things I see most often with the 5K iMac is why in the heck would I want a resolution that high? Isn't everything going to be super tiny? Without scaling, yes, but this is how it works, and it's actually the main reason why the iMac is 5K instead of 4K. The non-Retina 27-inch iMac has a resolution of 2560 by 1440, so 5120 by 2880 is exactly double that both ways, so screen real estate visually looks the same, but for text and UI elements, menus, and so forth, for every 1 pixel of screen real estate, there are 4 pixels crammed in that area, and that's why it is so detailed. On the other hand though, it knows where a photo or a video is in supported apps, so instead of that 4:1 ratio, it will actually give you the true 1:1 ratio, so that's where you're able to get a full 4K window and still have screen real estate left over. As far as graphics go, with the AMD R9 M290 running Tomb Raider at 2560 by 1440 on normal, there is an average frames per second of 49.4. For reference, the 4GB R9 M295X on my late 2014 iMac was about 15 frames per second faster, and those results were right on the money with Cinebench R15 as well. Now, moving on from just graphics and more into the real world testing, in Premiere Pro CC, I compiled a 3-minute 1080p project that you guys can actually download and test yourselves, link is below, but the baseline 2015 iMac exported that project in 3 minutes and 35 seconds, where the maxed out 2014 iMac did that in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Jumping over to After Effects CC, and again, you can download this test and try it out yourselves, but it took the baseline 2015 iMac 6 minutes and 31 seconds to complete, whereas the 2014 maxed out iMac was 5 minutes and 38 seconds, so a pretty solid difference there. Now this next test, the results were completely ass backwards and had me confused as hell to where I was running the test again and again. I put together a really taxing Final Cut render test where it really utilizes the GPU, and time after again, the baseline iMac was faster. It was faster by about 40 seconds every single time, and I could not for the life of me figure out why. So after a little digging, and I think it's not a secret that the thermal design of the iMac is not going to win any engineering awards, but because it was taxing out the GPU so much, the maxed out iMac was getting so hot that it was throttling down. Now don't take this as some freak result where it's going to be like this for every single test as we saw with the others, but if you're going to be doing any extensive 3D work, you should probably look elsewhere and not the iMac simply because of the thermal design. On top of that, for most of you out there, especially if you're trying to figure out where to best utilize your money in this iMac, it's almost a better bet to invest that towards flash storage and third-party memory as opposed to maxing out the CPU and obviously the GPU. If you really need a powerhouse machine, then chances are you're already looking at a Mac Pro or a custom-built PC anyways. Overall though, I was really impressed with the total performance from this iMac. Aside from that 7200 RPM hard drive, it didn't feel too slow, but I think over time, that is definitely going to be the bottleneck. Aside from that, I do have 2015 15-inch MacBook Pro coverage coming up as well, so definitely subscribe if you don't want to miss that. Pricing, availability, everything else is linked down below. This is Jonathan, and I will catch you guys later.